Right, systems of equations. So we've got our elimination, and we have some examples here. So I would highly recommend trying yourself, see if you can find some answers. Otherwise, we'll do them together, and we will get some answers together. So first thing we got to ask ourselves is on problem A, is which variable are we going to try to eliminate in this one? And you can see that we've got a positive 2x and a negative 2x. So if I add these equations together, the positive 2x and the negative 2x are going to cancel out. So in this case, eliminating the x's would be an excellent choice. So when we do that and we get 0x, we can then look at the y's, and negative y plus 3y is going to give us a positive 2y, and negative 2 plus 10 is going to give us 8. So I can rewrite that without the x and just say 2y equals 8, divide by 2, and get an answer of y equals 4. Once again, we don't want to just end with 4, we want to get the other answer as well. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to plug it in. It doesn't really matter which one we plug it into, but let's plug it into the top one. This time we'll plug it into the other one some other time as well. So 2x minus y, I do know what y is in this case. I know it's 4. And then equals negative 2. I want to add 4 to both sides. Add 4 to both sides. So I get 2x is equal to a positive 2. Divide by 2, and I get x is equal to 1. So my final answer there is going to be 1, 4. All right, question B, which one would be best to eliminate here? Are we going to eliminate the x's or are we going to eliminate the y's? And you can see that we are going to take this. If we just add these, then the negative 4y and the positive 4y are going to eliminate. So 2x plus a negative x is just going to give me x. And 14 plus a negative 3 is going to give me 11. And there we go. We already know what x is. X equals 11. So you can take that answer, plug it in. Just for fun, let's plug it into the bottom one this time. So we get negative x plus 4y is equal to a negative 3. Remember, we know exactly what x is. X is 11. So let's plug it in. So negative 11 plus 4y equals negative 3. We'll add 11 to both sides. Get 4y is equal to 8. Divide by 4, and get y equals 2. So our final answer for this problem would then be 11, 2 would be our point of intersection there. All right, this time you do have to figure out what C and D is on your own. So go ahead, give those a shot, answer the questions, and then afterwards we will work it out. So if you didn't quite get the right answers, hopefully by working it out, you'll figure it out. So let's start this one. Once again, when we add these together and eliminate, a negative x plus an x, those will cancel each other out. So I'm left with 2y minus 3y, which is going to give me a negative 1y, is equal to 5 plus a negative 9, negative 4. I remember we're just trying to solve for y, so I just have to quick divide by a negative 1, and that becomes y equals a positive 4. Let's plug it in. I'm going to plug it into the top one just because I'm dealing with less negative symbols, and that makes my life a little bit easier. So 2 times y, but instead of y, let's substitute that in. Get 4, so 2 times 4 minus x equals 5. 2 times 4 is 8, so 8 minus x equals 5. I can subtract 8 from both sides, subtract 8. Get a negative x is equal to a negative 3. Divide by that negative 1 and get x equals 3. So my final answer is going to be 3, 4. And last but not least, question D. Once again, we're going to eliminate this, add them together. 3x plus 2x is going to be 5x. A positive 4y minus 4y, those are going to eliminate. A 1 plus a negative 6 is going to equal negative 5. One quick last step here, divide by 5. X equals negative 1. Remember, you can always pause the video if I'm moving a little too fast so that you can catch up. And last part, let's plug it in. I'm going to plug it into the top equation. Once again, everything's positive up there, so that makes my life a little bit easier. So 3 times x. We know what x is. X is negative 1. Plus 4y equals 1. 3 times a negative 1, it's a negative 3. Plus 4y equals 1. Let's add 3 to both sides. 1 plus 3 is going to give me 4, so 4y equals 4. And then last step for that, divide by 4 and get y equals 1. So I know my solution is going to be negative 1, comma 1. Remember once again, x, comma y. And we've got one last one on this last page, so we've got our word problem. Pat was in a fishing competition at Lake Pisces. She caught some bass and some trout. Each bass weighed 3 pounds and each trout weighed 1 pound. Pat caught a total of 30 pounds of fish. She got 5 points in the competition for each bass, but since trout are endangered in Lake Pisces, she lost 1 point for each trout. Pat scored a total of 42 points. So we're going to let B be the number of bass, T be the number of trout, and we're going to write a systems of equation representing the information. So if we're trying to figure this out, we've got to write 2 equations. I can see that the 2 things that we're kind of comparing here is we're comparing the pounds of fish and the points. So when I write my equation, one of them is going to be about the pounds, one of them is going to be about the points. So it says B is bass, and it says each bass weighed 3 pounds. So I can write that equation as 3b. So each bass weighed 3 pounds, and in math means plus. Each trout weighed 1 point, so that would be 1 t, since I know trout is t, and 1 pound, so each trout weighed 1 pound, And then I know Pat caught a total, so when I see the word total, that tells me an equal sign of 30 pounds. So there's my first equation that's going to represent the weight in the pounds of fish that she caught. And the other equation is talking about the points. So it says she got 5 points in the competition for each bass. So that's going to be represented by 5b. But since trouts are endangered, she loses 1 point. So loses means minus 1t. So 1 point for each trout. And we know she scored a total equal sign of 42 points. So I'm looking at these equations right now, trying to decide what's going to be the best method. And I see that we have, first of all, neither equation is solved for 1, so I don't have b equals or t equals. So that probably means substitution is not going to be my best bet. I do see we've got a positive 1t and a negative 1t, so that tells me this is going to be set up perfect for elimination. So let's solve it, and let's line them up on top of each other. So there's my first equation representing the pounds. Here's my second equation representing the points. And now I know I can use elimination, and that 3b plus 5b is going to be 8b. The 1t minus 1t is going to cancel. And 30 plus 42 is going to give me 72. Last step, divide by 8 to get what b equals. And I see here that b is equal to 9. So my question here is asking me how many bass and trout Pat caught. So I know she caught 9 bass. There's my first answer. And then I need to find out how many trout she caught. So once again, plug it into either equation you want. The blue one, it has no negatives or has no minus sign. So that's probably going to be my best bet. So I'm going to plug that in. 3 times b, we already know what b is. We're going to plug it in. So that's 9 plus 1t is equal to 30. 3 times 9 is 27 plus, I don't really have to write it as 1t. I can just write it as t equals 30. Subtract 27 from both sides since it's being added to the t and it's a positive number. And then I'm going to get t is equal to 3. But remember, this is a word problem, so let's label it and say 3 trout. So I now know that Pat caught 9 bass and 3 trout.